I got fired. By the time I got home, my fiancée had already emptied the house. She was sleeping with the man who fired me, and they'd planned it for months. They drained our joint account, took my car, my home, my life, but they forgot one thing. I don't scream. I don't threaten. I plan. My name is Daniel Briggs. I'm 40 years old, and for most of my adult life, I've been the guy who stays behind the scenes. Not the leader, not the showman. Just the guy who makes sure the foundation doesn't crack. In IT, that's a respectable position, if not exactly glamorous. But in life, people tend to overlook the quiet ones. I've always been fine with that, until the day two people I trusted the most, my fiancé and the man who called me his right hand, used that quiet against me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't lose control. I just made a plan. Let me take you back to 2017. That's when I met Amanda. We were at a leadership and logistics summit in San Francisco. I was there to present on secure systems migration. She was working the event, an operations coordinator for a private events firm. I barely remember the keynote that day, but I remember her. She was everything I wasn't. Extroverted, fast-talking, effortlessly funny. People gravitated toward her. The kind of person who could make friends with a stranger in line for coffee. She told me I looked like I hated being there. I said I did. She laughed and said, "Finally, someone honest." That night, we had dinner at a small place off Market Street. We talked for 4 hours. She teased me about being too serious. I told her she should try writing code sometime. She said I was the most grounded man she'd ever met. That word would come up again. Grounded, then stable, then dependable. At the time, I took it as a compliment. Things moved fast after that. Amanda lived in Portland. I was in Seattle. We did weekends, then long weekends. After 3 months, she started spending more time at my place than hers. By the 6-month mark, we were looking at condos together. We moved into a modest 2-bedroom near Capitol Hill. Nothing flashy. I renovated the 2nd bedroom into a home office. She brought her espresso machine and filled the kitchen with color. For a while, it felt like balance. I handled the boring stuff: bills, maintenance, groceries. She brought energy, spontaneity, warmth. She also brought ambition. Amanda wanted her own company. She didn't want to be stuck working events for other people. I encouraged that, even offered to help with her website, branding, whatever she needed. What I didn't realize back then was that Amanda didn't just want to build something. She wanted to skip the slow part. When Graham Wexley was named CEO in late 2018, the office changed overnight. Gone were the messy desks and worn carpet tiles. Suddenly, we had meditation pods, standing desks, and corporate mindfulness sessions every Tuesday. The kind of changes that look good in an annual report but feel off when you've been in the same chair for a decade. Graham was sleek, fast-talking, always 3 slides ahead in every meeting. I wasn't flashy, but I wasn't slow either. I'd been building our infrastructure for almost 7 years by then, migrating outdated servers, overseeing vendor contracts, implementing cloud security protocols that saved the company over $800,000 in the first year alone. Graham noticed. Within 3 months, he promoted me to Vice President of Systems and Strategy. The title sounded important. The raise was generous. But more than anything, it meant I was now in rooms where things actually happened. Rooms where people stopped speaking when Graham walked in. At first, he treated me like a trusted tool. "You're the kind of guy I like, Daniel. Low ego, high ROI. He'd call me into meetings not for opinions, but for validation. He didn't need allies. He needed witnesses. But I stayed close. Listened more than I spoke. Took mental notes while he'd talk about scaling culture and weaponizing efficiency. Amanda, meanwhile, was thriving in her own lane. After some freelancing gigs, she'd landed a lucrative contract with Sky North Events, a firm that handled corporate functions across the West Coast. It was through that job that she reconnected with Graham, who apparently remembered her from a conference years back. He started requesting her for all our in-house events. Holiday parties, leadership retreats, off-site strategy weekends. I thought it was a professional courtesy. Then he started mentioning her in meetings. Amanda's team really nailed the vibe last Friday, huh? She's got great instincts. I like how she thinks. I smiled, said nothing, but something about the way he said her name, like it was familiar in his mouth, rubbed me wrong. It wasn't long before Amanda started quoting him at home. Graham says you need to sell yourself more. You undersell everything. Graham thinks you could be CTO by next year if you just lean in a little. You should see how he talks about vision. It's inspiring. I told myself not to be paranoid. He was the CEO. Of course she respected him. I respected him too, in a way. But then came the charity gala. It was a Friday in December. Amanda had coordinated the whole event. A winter-themed fundraiser for veterans housing. Graham gave a speech. People clapped. Champagne flowed. Amanda was radiant in a silver dress that shimmered under the lights. I left early. Headache, I told her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something felt off. Her tone, his stare, the way they laughed a little too hard at each other's jokes. So I checked our home network the next day. I'm not proud of it, but I logged into the router and reviewed the device history. Graham's phone had connected to our Wi-Fi. At 2:13 a.m., I didn't confront her. Not then. Instead, I made coffee, took a walk, sat on a park bench for 2 hours thinking about nothing and everything. I remembered something Amanda had said when we first moved in together. You're the kind of guy people underestimate, Daniel, but you see everything. She was right. I just hadn't done anything with it. Yet, from that day on, I started preparing, not reacting, not accusing, preparing. I downloaded network logs weekly, started archiving Amanda's text to our shared cloud folder, quietly, automatically. Every time she left her laptop open, I checked her calendar. Graham's name came up more and more, sometimes for client briefings, other times for strategy dinners. Always vague, always after hours. Still, I said nothing, but I stopped making plans, stopped dreaming out loud, started watching. The day Graham fired me, the sky was clear, not a single cloud. The kind of pale blue that looks almost artificial, like the city had been airbrushed to perfection. It felt wrong, like the weather had missed a memo that everything was about to fall apart. It was a Wednesday. I remember that because Amanda had made breakfast that morning. Eggs, toast, fresh coffee, just the way I liked it. She wasn't usually that attentive midweek. Normally, she'd be on calls, halfway through her second espresso, and scrolling through her phone by the time I was dressed. But that morning, she lingered, smiled more, kissed me like she meant it. You're going to be amazing today, she said. At the time, I thought she was just being sweet. Looking back, I think she already knew what was coming. Maybe she'd known for weeks. Maybe the night before, while I was asleep in the next room, she'd had a final planning call. Maybe Graham had already drafted the termination letter. Maybe she proofread it. At 3:45 p.m., Graham called me into his office. The building's 32nd floor had panoramic windows that looked out over the Sound. Ferries drifted through calm water. The world kept moving like nothing was wrong. Inside, his office smelled like eucalyptus and something more artificial. Maybe whatever ambition smells like when it's worn as cologne. He didn't even bother with pleasantries. No, how are you? No, thanks for stopping by. Daniel, he said, folding his hands over a manila folder like it was some kind of peace offering. This isn't easy, but we're restructuring. IT is going lean. We're pivoting to a more agile model. He said the words like he'd been rehearsing them in front of a mirror. Cold, scripted, like this was just another slide in a presentation. One he'd practiced until he could say it without blinking. Your position is being eliminated. You've been a valued member of the team, and we're offering a generous severance package. He slid the folder across the table like he was handing me a check at the end of a forgettable dinner. I opened it, looked at the numbers, the HR boilerplate, the timestamp on the internal memo that said the decision had been made last week. Then I looked at his face. What about the Q2 cloud migration? I asked. The corner of his mouth twitched into something resembling sympathy. It didn't quite get there. We'll reassign it. Don't worry. He didn't make eye contact. He didn't say thank you. He didn't say goodbye. Just sat there, hands clasped, like the priest of some sterile religion that only preached scalability. It wasn't personal. That was the worst part. It was procedure. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't even ask for a reason. I stood, straightened my blazer, reached out to shake his hand. His grip was limp, hesitant, like even he wasn't sure he deserved to take it. I walked out of the building without saying a word to anyone. I didn't look back. When I got home, Amanda wasn't there. No note on the counter. No message waiting on my phone. Silence. She didn't text. She didn't call. Not until 9:13 p.m. Then, finally, a message. I think we need space. I'm sorry. I didn't plan it this way. 12 words. No punctuation. No emotion. Just absence. I stared at the screen for a long time. Like if I looked hard enough, some hidden meaning might appear. Some second message buried beneath the cowardice. But it never came. I closed the message, opened the closet, and started packing her things. I didn't slam drawers. Didn't break anything. I folded each shirt, each dress, each memory. Boxed her books. Labeled everything. Clean. Precise. Efficient. Just like she always said I was. When I was done, I sat down at my desk, unlocked the encrypted drive I hadn't touched in months, and opened a folder named failsafe.zip. I didn't start collecting data because I expected betrayal. I started because I believe in documentation, in patterns, in preparation. It's how I work, how I think, how I survive, and now how I fight. What I found wasn't just suspicious. It was orchestrated. Emails between Amanda and Graham. Not one or two. Dozens. Hidden in subfolders, disguised with project labels. CC'd to dummy accounts that trace back to burner domains. Not just flirtation. Strategy. Discussions about a side initiative. Mentions of leveraging existing frameworks. Casual references to IP transfers, brand realignment, talent reallocation. They weren't planning to start something new. They were planning to take what I had built and relaunch it under their name. The independent launch Amanda mentioned casually over wine one night, not hers, ours, taken from under me. I spent the next 48 hours in complete silence. Didn't eat much. Didn't sleep. Just read. Highlighted. Compiled. Cross-reference Amanda's laptop activity logs with Graham's executive-level credentials. Trace VPN access from our home IP to the internal code repository. Located timestamps at 2:13 a.m. 3 different nights. Amanda's laptop ID. Corroborated it all. I built a case. Piece by piece. Byte by byte. Then I called Elena Torres. She and I had worked together 5 years ago during a multi-agency cybersecurity breach involving federal contractors. She was with the SEC back then. Now she ran a private consultancy specializing in quiet internal investigations. I sent her the evidence archive. Encrypted. Time-stamped. Verified. She called me back Sunday morning. Her voice was calm. Clinical. Daniel, this isn't just corporate misconduct. This is wire fraud. Intellectual property theft. And if they pitch this to outside investors while using your company's internal systems, it's securities fraud too. So, she asked, how far do you want to go? I looked at the boxes in the hallway, the empty closet, the manila folder still sitting on my dining table. All the way, I said. I created 2 versions of the archive, one for legal escalation, one for leverage. Then I scheduled 3 meetings, with Elena for legal prep, with Daniel Briggs, a board member who once told me I was the smartest man in the room, because I never needed to say it. And finally, with myself. In the mirror, I didn't feel anger. Not anymore. I didn't feel grief. I didn't feel pity. I felt something sharper. Clarity. And clarity was enough. Monday morning, 8:30 a.m., I walked into a coffee shop 2 blocks from my old office. Daniel Briggs was already there, nursing a cup of black coffee and reading the Wall Street Journal. He didn't look surprised to see me. Daniel, he said, folding the paper. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. I handed him a flash drive. No small talk. No pleasantries. What's this? Evidence. Graham and Amanda are building a clone startup, using stolen assets. Proprietary architecture. You want to see the Harris West proposal. It's a word-for-word lift. He didn't ask why I had it. He knew how my brain worked. I wasn't the kind of guy to come unprepared. He plugged in the drive, skimmed through 3 files, then leaned back in his chair. He used you. They both did. What do you want? His resignation. Quietly. A press release naming me acting CEO. No headlines. No lawsuits. Just a clean transition. He walks away, I fix the mess. Harold didn't flinch. Can you prove it to a legal standard? With Elena's report? Yes. Give me 48 hours. The board met in secret on Wednesday evening. Graham didn't even see it coming. He was given a choice, resign for personal reasons, or face formal charges. He took the door, proudly, as if it were his idea. By Friday, the press release went live. Effective immediately, Daniel Briggs will assume the role of acting CEO. No photo, no interview, just a name and a title. Amanda texted me the moment the release dropped. Your CEO? Why didn't you tell me? I didn't respond. She called 3 times. I didn't answer. The next Monday, I walked back into the building. Same lobby, same receptionist, same polished floor. But everything had changed. People watched me as I passed. Not with pity, not with curiosity, with respect. I wasn't the silent tech guy anymore. I was the one who'd survived. Amanda was there that day, working a freelance contract with our marketing team. She saw me walk by. I nodded. She blinked. She didn't smile. Neither did I. By the end of the week, I'd terminated all third-party vendor contracts pending internal audit, including hers. She received a formal notice. No emotion, no message, just legal procedure. She sent me an email titled, "We Need to Talk." I deleted it without opening it. Graham, meanwhile, wasn't done playing games. He tried calling board members, tried spinning the narrative, said it was a misunderstanding, that I was just bitter, so I made one more move. I filed a report with the FBI's white-collar crime division. Through Elena, she had connections. She'd already begun digging into financial irregularities tied to Graham's stock maneuvers and Amanda's offshore communications with potential investor in Singapore. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was a case. 3 weeks after I filed the report, Elena called me. The FBI is moving forward. They've confirmed suspicious transactions. Graham's being watched. I asked her if Amanda was part of the investigation. There was a long pause. Her name's on the communication threads. She's not the architect, but she's involved. Likely a cooperating party if it escalates. That night, Amanda sent me a text. Did you go to the FBI? They're asking questions. I turned off my phone. At work, we began repairing the wreckage Graham left behind. Vendor relationships, client trust, employee morale. I worked late most nights, not out of ambition, but necessity. Some of the systems he built were hollow, more performance than infrastructure, kind of like his relationships. We restructured the leadership team, promoted people who'd been overlooked, paid off old debts, and quietly, methodically, I rewrote the future of the company I had helped build. 6 weeks after Graham's exit, I got a call from Harold. "He's gone," he said. "Where?" I asked. "Left the country. Private jet. No extradition treaty where he landed." It wasn't justice, not exactly, but it was closure. Amanda had left Seattle by then. Word was she moved back to Portland, restarted her events business under a new name. She never reached out again. I was okay with that. One afternoon, while cleaning out my office, I found a photo. It was from 4 years ago. Me, Amanda, Graham, and 2 other execs at a retreat in Napa. We were smiling. I was holding a glass of wine. Graham had his hand on my shoulder. I stared at it for a minute. Then I fed it through the shredder. A month later, I sold a condo. Too many memories. I bought a small house in the woods outside Spokane. Quiet. Removed. There's a creek that runs behind it, and a German shepherd named Victor who follows me everywhere. I don't go to conferences anymore. I don't speak on panels. I just live. Some nights I sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and think about how close I came to losing everything. Not just my career, not just my relationship, my sense of who I was. But I didn't lose it because I didn't fight with anger. I didn't scream. I didn't burn everything down. I waited. I watched. I struck when it mattered. People say revenge is a dish best served cold. They're wrong. It's best served calm, silent, strategic,